Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. I hope you all are doing well. I've been doing pretty good. The last basically 2 weeks in general have just been pretty good, especially the last week. If you know, you know. But this episode I kind of view as being a two-part episode where really the first part is just going to be just me, and the second part is I'm going to open the floor up to some people who I think would make the part two of this episode very interesting, because I know that after they listen to this, they'll have some ideas that maybe I didn't touch on in this first episode. And plus, I do need to have another episode again with, me just talking with another person and not just, talking to myself, talking to you guys like this. But the topic for this episode is, are video games getting worse? Are they falling off? Falling off, me using the word falling off. But as I pose that question, I kind of just want to say what video games mean to me. And video games have always been a stress reliever. The first video game that I remember playing would have been Mario Party with my siblings. Playing, Mario Party 4, Mario Party 5 wasn't very good, I understood the, like basics of the game. You're rolling, around the board, you're trying to collect the most stars, which growing up, my older sister would always beat me and my brother, but I pretty much really got good at video games around, when I was about 13-ish. Like literally it was like tradition for when like my sister and her friends would basically come here, and her guy friends, yes, actual guy friends, because my sister would bring, like a group. It wasn't like, like mix of, some of her friends. But they would always talk trash about being able to beat me in Madden, and then I'd kick their ass. So I think really only one or two of my sister's friends would have beaten me at Madden. Jay, you just let me know what that number would have been, because I feel like you might have more of an accurate count on that than I would have. But regardless, video games have always been a stress reliever for me and also a huge source of enjoyment. And yes, video games can definitely cause the body some stress. Like, say, if you're in an intense match, maybe if you're playing Call of Duty, you're playing Search and Destroy, and maybe you're in a one-on-one, you're trying to defuse the bomb or stop him from planting the bomb. Or maybe you're playing college football or Madden and you're down by a field goal, you've got one timeout, you got to drive 85 yards in 30 seconds and no timeouts. Or if you're like me and you're playing Ultra Rumble and, you know, it's me, my brother, and Kevin and another team, and, the other team kind of has us backed in a corner. And, I got to maybe help clutch up so that, it can make Kevin and my brother's life a little easier. But usually when I deal with a stressful situation in video games and say like I'm done with the like game of Ultra Rumble, or maybe I lost or won the game of, college football or Call of Duty, I'll usually take a few minutes just to kind of give my body a chance to calm down, because too much stress for anybody is a bad thing, obviously, and I don't want to stress myself out over video games. And usually that feeling usually lasts about a minute or two. Usually I'll kind of walk away, go get some water, things in that nature. But video games for me in general, they're just, it's always been a way, just for me to have some fun, and just as a way to, I guess, kind of calm down, forget about, the some of the, stressful parts that, I would deal, just in my day-to-day life. And so I think I play a lot of different video games. Like, I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I'll just kind of name some of the more popular video games that either A, I play, or B, have played a lot of. Would have been, Madden, college football, 2K, in the sports games genre, first person shooters, Call of Duty, anime games. Really, only two, really, to be honest, just one, and that's My Hero Ultra Rumble. And so I'm going to kind of talk about, some of the problems that some of these games would definitely still have. And I'm going to try to get, like screenshots of, like each of these games to kind of help prove my point. Who knows? I might even try to put, like certain video of, like some of these games. I'm not sure yet. So kind of just have to see if I can edit, say, like the screenshots in a way where it doesn't seem too forced. As long as it flows naturally, I definitely will try to do it. But talking about some of my in general takes on video games, one of the bigger problems that I think is the cost of video games and microtransactions, which I understand that, with PS5, Xbox, PC, base video games alone are going to cost about $70, let alone tax. And sports video games like Call of Duty, Sparking Zero, there's like special editions of these games. Like with Sparking Zero, I remember there was like a $200 edition of the game where you could have got a lot of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, like I'll say collector's items for lack of a better term, for Madden and college football. College Football 26 basically just came out within the last few days. And so like there was a bundle where you could get Madden 26 and College Football 26 for like what I think $110, give or take. So you can get both, which to be honest is actually a decent deal. That $110 is probably not an exact price, but you're getting two video games for basically $100. It's not a bad deal in theory. Um, and Call of Duty, like a lot of microtransactions in Call of Duty, a crap ton. And so, do I think video games today are worth $70? No, I definitely don't. I think that sports games are getting away with not making a lot of major changes. Now, I don't own College Football 26 or Madden 26 right now. I don't necessarily plan to buy them with my own money. I say that just because it is possible that somebody would get me these games as a gift, and I'm not just trying to rely on that. And for, my loved ones, if you were thinking about what to get Jaron for his birthday, I am not against the idea of these games. I'm not against them at all. So if you were to get me these games as a gift, I would greatly, appreciate it. I would play the games. No problem, no if and buts about it. One of the problems I have with video games is certain games just take up a lot of freaking space. And so unless you have, like terabyte hard drive, terabyte storage, like you can download like 3 or 4 games and then like, oh crap, you're running out of space. And so it makes it hard to, buy certain games every year. Like one of the reasons why I don't plan on buying like Madden every year is not even just from a gameplay perspective, but I own Madden 24, the Madden from basically 2 years ago. I don't want to buy Madden 25, Madden 26, Madden 27, and so on and so forth, because that's going to take up a lot of space. And I get it. When you buy the following, sports game for the next year, you can just delete the old version. But for people who like, the Madden or college football or Call of Duty that came out that year, what's the point of deleting a game that you actually really liked? Like that's just something that I don't want to do. And over the year, like honestly, since I've learned the value of a dollar, I don't want to just uninstall these games. I think for me, what would make me buy, like Madden 26, for example, is not even just if my friends were getting it. It's more so that like if I can't play online for say Madden 24 when they shut those servers off, then I was like, okay, it might be worth investing in say another Madden and then playing that Madden for a few years until, the cycle repeats. That wouldn't be, that's basically that's my equivalent of when you buy a car and you're going to drive the car into the ground, because it is a huge waste of money and irresponsible if you're going to get a new car every single year, because that's just a lot of money that could be going toward other things. And so with video games, I basically play them until I can't play them in the way that I would have played them in the past. So that's kind of my rule with sports video games. And so I think that, yeah, they just don't make a lot of changes to the game. So I can't attest to College Football 26. I know that there's some people on TikTok that are saying like, oh man, this game is great. And people are just finding a way to nitpick. While other people, they kind of seem to have genuine dislikes about the game. And so I think for me, with what I have seen, I think a lot of people didn't really like the Road to Glory, even though that you can play high school football in the game now. Like in NCAA 14, the last game before, College Football 25 came out, you kind of had a more expansive, uh, like high school football career in the game and then college. And then at the time, you could have imported that same player into, the Madden of that same year. And yes, you could do that with College Football 25. Imagine you could probably do the same with this year's edition. So I just think that I don't want to just buy it because I'm perfectly happy with playing college football 25 personally. Like even as a, we'll just say a smaller content creator, because I'll post video games stuff on the side, even though I predominantly only post My Hero Ultra Rumble. I don't know. I just think that I it's not worth it for me to buy a lot of these games every single year, even if I'm the first person in the world to post gameplay for a certain game, that would probably be great for the channel. But with me as a person, I don't have the ability to do that every single year in and year out. So that's just me. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments on what you think about, say, College Football 26 if you have it. If you wanted to try to convince me, persuade me to buy the game, let me know some of your thoughts down below. And also, kind of just talking about Madden 25 real quick. I never bought it, but I did play it. I think that Madden definitely played a lot differently than some of the Maddens in the past. Like I had Madden 24. My friend Kevin, in college, we'd hang out a lot to play, some of the other Maddens on the PS5. But Madden 25 definitely played a lot differently because it felt a lot slower. So I definitely think that was, a difference in the game, like, compared to the other ones. But I just was not interested in buying Madden 25. So I think for me, when I was younger, I got a lot of sports games, as gifts. And so I don't think it's just practical for me to just continue to buy them every year, but I don't want to, you know, go on that same point. Next, I'm going to talk about NBA 2K. And so before I got the PS5, um, I played 2K16, loved it. Played 2K17. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as 2K16. I didn't buy 2K18. 2K19, which is my favorite 2K, which I believe is a very controversial opinion amongst the 2K community because, for a minute, 2K16 was my favorite. Then 2K19, I just played the crap out of. But a lot of people, they're kind of like, okay, they might say 2K15, they might say 2K17, they might say 2K16, they might say 2K20. The opinion seems to be very divided. But when I first got my PS5, I got it the last 2 weeks of my junior year, and I didn't bring it back to college because I mean, like in 2 weeks, I'm just gonna go home, for the summer, and that's one less thing I'd have to pack. So like, I basically was like, tell my brothers like, bro, you can play the PS5 all you want, for like 2 weeks, and even when I come home. But I was gonna say like, let him, kind of break it in, so to speak. And so when I first got the PS5, I bought 2K23. The Devin Booker was on the cover of that. And it's the only game to this day I have on disc for my PS5. And so like in my experience, this 2K definitely played way differently than the last 2K I would have played at the time, which would have been 2K20, which I mean, I get it. If a video game, that releases yearly and that's 3 years apart, of course it's going to play drastically differently. Like if it didn't, that would kind of be a problem in my opinion. But I would say microtransactions definitely hurts 2K because you have to spend hours grinding to basically be able to make your player enjoyable. Like it's very very hard to make a 3-point shot. Like let's just say because with the difficulties in the game and like let's just say you have a good game in my career, maybe you're playing against the Warriors, you get a lot of points, you get a lot of rebounds, you get a lot of assists. If you're playing on one of the lower difficulties, you're not going to get as much VC because the lower difficulties aren't going to be as difficult. But say you're going to be playing on Hall of Fame and you have those same stats, you're going to get more VC. But here's the thing. If you're going to take a 3-point shot on Hall of Fame difficulty and you're a 60 overall, it's going to be way more difficult to make it than say if you're playing on, I believe the lowest difficulty in 2K is rookie. I haven't played 2K in a minute. And also 2K just takes up a lot of freaking space. That is why I uninstalled 2K23 from my PlayStation a while back. I think I uninstalled it before even 2K24 came out. I'm not 100% sure on that. But you've got to spend so much time, which grinding is not a problem. I love the grind for like video games to basically make your player go from, oh my gosh, I'm trash to, bro, I'm the next superstar. I just won. I had a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander type year. By that I mean, winning the regular season MVP, the Finals MVP, and he's the cover of the next 2K. in which Shea is already a player that, people call him a free throw merchant. I jokingly do it, to like Kevin and my brother. That's just the joke. But Shea, that man's a baller and that man's a bucket. But that's beside the point. Um, I just think that if you go the VC route, if you're not spending $50 to $100, you're barely improving your player. And so you got to think these games are going to cost $70. Like 2K is going to cost $70, let alone tax. And then if you spend the extra $50 to $100, you're essentially spending anywhere from $120 to $200 just on the game alone. And the other thing is, a lot of people, they'll make a build on 2K which they don't necessarily like, and so like they'll play maybe half a season of my career, maybe a full season, which, you're playing 41 to 82 games. That takes a lot of time for anybody, whether you have the quarters on the lowest minute, which I don't know why people would do that, or let's just say you have 5 minute quarters. That's still going to take up a lot of your time. And so most people aren't going to commit to it when they find out that the player they make is not viable for like online play. And so then they're just going to abandon that, make a new player, and then spend that same 50 to 100 extra dollars again. And that 120 to $200 is now more like basically $200 to $300. And that's just insane to spend on a video game. Like, I could not do that. Like, I've basically, with video games in recent years, when people have gotten me like a PlayStation gift card for say like my birthday or whatever, I would use that on microtransactions. But even then, I wouldn't spend the entire thing on microtransactions. So like in Ultra Rumble, for example, like, which I'll talk about this a little bit more later. Like, let's say I'm close to being able to have a chance to try to get another character, but say maybe I don't really like may say I don't really have as much time to get a certain character that I want to get, because that game, they kind of cycle between the characters you have a chance of getting. And so I was like, okay, it's a game that I've played for a while, it's an anime I support, I'm okay spending the $5 off this gift card that somebody got me as a gift just for the chance. Even though sometimes I've had great luck, but at the same time sometimes I've had very bad luck. But hey, that's just me personally. And so I think that 2K, and also another thing with 2K, I know Madden's like this too. You get pretty much halfway through the year for, the game in its life cycle. The game will basically become free or a huge discount. Why would I spend $70 on this game in October just when I know come February or March, this game will basically be $20 or even less? I believe at one point 2K25 was even free. Why would I spend $70 when I know I can get this game for free much later? I think the only people who it is worth to spend on, say, like 2K, for example, like that much money off day one, is if you are a huge NBA fan, which I love basketball. I do. I don't think I'm as interested in it as I was in the past, but I still do love basketball. I still do pay as much attention as I possibly could. And so I just am not at the point right now where I feel like, yeah, I'm going to buy 2K26. I'm going to buy 2K27, so on and so forth. So that was a lot of yapping. But let me know some of your thoughts on, say, like, the 2K, Madden, those microtransactions. And the thing is, I didn't even talk about, like the ultimate team in both Madden, college football, and 2K. That's a whole other different thing. But instead, we're going to move on to Call of Duty, specifically kind of Black Ops 6. I enjoy Black Ops 6. I got it around Christmas time, going into 2025. And also, I was not one of those Christmas noobs for, the people who, buy Call of Duty day one. Y'all was not catching me lacking. I was doing my thing. Even though I haven't played multiplayer in a minute, I'd still do my thing. I'm not saying I'm, like, goated, but I'm saying I'm better than the average person. That's just me. But Black Ops 6 was the first Call of Duty I've bought since Black Ops 4. Mostly just because, it's the first Call of Duty I've got on the PS5. Like, I didn't buy Cold War, Modern Warfare 2022 or 2019. I didn't have those Call of Duties. Black Ops 4 would have been the last one I had, and that would have been on the PS4. I got, like I said, I told you earlier that I got my PS5 my junior year of college. And for people who still have a PS4 or last gen consoles, I don't blame you, because these systems are expensive, and I understand that not everybody comes from a circumstance where they're able to get it, but that's a different story. And so, like, speaking of Black Ops 6, if you're somebody who plays multiplayer, Warzone, even if you play zombies, but I'm just more so talking about the multiplayer perspective. And if you want to buy skins, aka cosmetics, you're gonna have to dish out an extra $25 to $30. Like, I think, we'll just say a month, maybe 2 months ago, I think shortly after, I don't remember if it was Citadel or if it was Shattered Veil. I don't remember off the top of my head, but regardless, with one of the maps that have come out in Black Ops 6, they had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle event just for like the entire game. And I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As we speak, I am wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, cutoff tank top. And so my favorite is Michelangelo. And so before knowing the price at the time, I would have been like, yeah, I totally do it just because I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like Call of Duty. Like, I'm cool with this. But then when finding out that each specific turtle, so your Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, you have to spend $30 on just one of them. On just one. Now, if there was extra things that you got if you bought the cosmetic for whatever turtle you decided to buy, that's another thing. But $30 on one skin, the game was already $70. There's a lot of skins in the game. They update the store probably like every day. I'm not 100% sure. But $30, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Even if My Hero Academia comes into Fortnite, or if Naruto comes into Fortnite, they're in Fortnite. If it comes into, Call of Duty, I'm not doing it. I'm not spending $30 on a cosmetic just to look like Deku. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not. I can't bring myself to do it. And so a lot of people, kind of have complaints with Call of Duty just because of, like the store, and, sometimes they don't fix the gameplay issues as quickly as they should, which I think that's crazy. You guys let me know in the comments below if you've noticed any kind of crazy problems with Call of Duty, whether it's, there's a TikToker I heard, basically, I don't know what Call of Duty he was referring to because he didn't explicitly say. He was basically saying there was a problem where you could not reload your weapon as you were sprinting or something like that. I didn't listen to the entire TikTok, but basically there was some sort of problem using your weapon as you were moving. It was like, if I understood correctly, it was like the only way you could use your weapon in this Call of Duty is if you were basically standing still. And anybody knows COD timing. You can be sitting still for like a minute, and then you move, and then an enemy player comes around the corner and kills you. That happens to me at least 2 or 3 times a match in Call of Duty. And if you say that's never happened to you, you're lying. I don't care what you say. But another thing with COD is that it does kind of seem like the originality, the uniqueness is not there as much. Like, I feel like COD is relying on nostalgia a little too much. Which, like, I love Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3. But those are the older Call of Duties in the past. I don't think it's a problem to bring back, like fan favorite weapons. Like when the PPSH got added to Black Ops 6, I don't think that's a bad thing. In Zombies on Shattered Veil, they have the Wonder Waffle. I always call it the Wonder Waffle, but I'm referring to it by its actual name. I think, I don't think that's a bad thing. But the same TikToker I was referring to, kind of just pointed out that, they're bringing back guns from certain Call of Duties. They're packaging it. They're basically gift wrapping it in new gift wrap. And then they're delivering it to players today like it's a brand new gun, when in reality, it's not. And so I'm not a game developer, which also this kind of goes back to my Madden point a little bit, which I understand that for a game in its life cycle, once a game comes out, a few months are going to pass, then they'll work on the new game. So they don't have as like a year. Well, in some cases they might, but they don't have as much time as one would think they would for making games. But I think that the creativity is not as high as it used to be. I think in Zombies, the creativity is still at a pretty high level. Like, I say, like, like the new perks, in Black Ops 6, like, even though that I don't like to buy this perk, I only get it if somebody uses the on the house gobblegum Melee Macchiato. I don't buy it personally, but I think that's something that, as far as I know, unless it was in maybe one of the last Call of Duties or two, let me know down below. I don't think there's really been something like that specifically. Um, I think that's very very unique, and also elemental pop. That is probably my favorite perk in Black Ops 6 that wasn't exactly in some of the other ones, to my knowledge. That's my so stuff like that I think is pretty cool. Some of the wonder weapons I think are pretty cool. Um, like, what's the most unique wonder weapon that I can think of in Black Ops 6? Um, Honestly, I'm gonna say the Beam Smasher on Terminus. I think that's very, very unique. Which is similar to the Paralyzer in my opinion, but I think I'll say transformed it enough to make it unique, to where it's like it doesn't seem like a copy and paste sort of thing, if that makes sense. I mean, I love the swords on Citadel, even though they're just like the bows on Horizon Drac and the staffs on Origins. On the Tomb, they literally brought back the Ice Staff, even though that was my favorite staff on Origins. Um, on Shattered Veil, they have the Rigor Mark II and the Wonder Waff, but like I'm not upset at that. Liberty Falls, they brought back the jet gun and they made it usable, so I'm not exactly mad at that. And also, like how Pack-a-Punch works in Black Ops 6 compared to others, I think even these older guns that they've brought back, they're still making them unique. They're still making them fresh, so to speak. And so, let me all know what your thoughts are on Call of Duty, and also, Black Ops 7 is probably going to come out later this year. Let me know what some of your thoughts are on Black Ops 7. I didn't pay too much attention to it. I do know that from a zombie side, people think that Transit is going to be like the first map in Black Ops 7, which, the potential has me at least interested. I'm not going to lie to you, but in terms of, say, like multiplayer wise, I probably missed the news in regards to that. But moving on to kind of just my final gaming topic, which is My Hero Ultra Rumble. It's the first gotcha game system I've ever played, and to essentially explain what that means, you like if you were to download the game right now, say you've never played it at all, you're not gonna have access to a lot of characters. You're not. You're gonna have to unlock most of them, and you're also gonna have to roll for most of them. There is a system in the game called character tickets, which it takes a bit to get one, but essentially at this stage in the game, if you get a character ticket, you can unlock quite a few characters for free. But again, that still takes some time. And so, but the air quotes easiest way to get a character is you have to roll for them. You have to get enough roll tickets or hero crystals to roll, which you can get roll tickets just through playing the game, which definitely does take a while to even just roll just once. Or the easier way is spending money. Um, which similar to 2K, it takes a lot of money to buy what you would need in My Hero Ultra Rumble to be able to roll for a character. And also the odds of rolling for a character are very, very, very low. Like, I'm not good at I'm not good enough at numbers, so please correct me if I'm wrong with this in the comments. Essentially, for characters, like I'm looking at the My Hero posters in my room, there are quirk sets, which are essentially you have the main character Deku, and you have the default version of him that came in day one. Then, like 6 months later, they had a quirk set of him, which is basically just different ways that he's using his quirk, different way he's using his ability. And so, at this point, a lot of characters have them. The most recent quirk set is Kendo, which is a character not in Deku's class, but it essentially it if you're trying to roll for, say, Todoroki, for example, he's a quirk set. The odds of you getting him are less than like 1%. I believe it's point. Sometimes it's point like 0.87. Other times it's 0.01, which that's crazy. Unless the character is the face of the banner. The time of this recording, it is July 9th. Like if you're trying to roll for Kendo, you have, I think it's a 1% chance. Um, Actually, no, not even 1%. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I'll probably put this in as a screenshot just because I don't want to butcher the numbers too much, if that makes sense. But you'll have the better chance at getting the character who is at the face of the banner, and not say like old character or old quirk sets or versions of a character that you would have missed out on. So I enjoy this game. I was about to say I love it, which that isn't wrong because it is the game I post the most on my YouTube. My Hero is one of my favorite animes. I even have a plus ultra tattoo on my left shoulder. Typically, when I play the game, I'm going to play it with my brother. I'm going to play it with Kevin. The game is similar to Fortnite in a sense of it's a battle royale. There's 8 teams of 3, and so obviously you're just trying to fight to be the last team standing. We all work really, really well together, and I think that makes the game fun for us all. But there are problems with the game, obviously, where like a balancing issue. Some characters can deal a crap ton of damage. Other characters, the game has portrayed them in one way, where in the actual show, maybe even the manga, this character has not been seen doing certain things like that. Monoma, Monoma. Um, but that is a whole other argument that I'm not really trying to make. There are like so many character mismatches in a video in this game that makes it hard to play. Now, like I get it from like a sports perspective. Maybe if you're playing basketball and you have Shaquille O'Neal being guarded by Steph Curry, you're throwing the ball to Shaq every time. There's no ifs ands buts about it. So about a week ago, I posted a video of me and Kevin encountering a cheater. I think for the last 2 seasons, there's been crossplay, and so I can't I can't speak for 100% certainty if the cheaters are only on PC. I cannot. I'm just going to assume that cheaters are just on every console to some extent. But it was a cheating Ochako. Ochako's quirk is zero gravity, which allows her to stay in the air. No matter if you're playing as the default Ochako or her quirk set. I was playing as Shigaraki, in which I was playing as the version of him that is a grounded character. Um, Even if this Ochako player was not cheating and just like staying in the air and never touching the ground, it would have been extremely difficult for me to win because that Ochako doesn't have to touch the ground. The only way that I could have dealt damage to her is by, her touching the ground. But hey, that's a whole other thing about it. And if I had to suggest maybe one fix to the game, is that a few seasons ago, well, maybe not even a few at this point, there was a system in the game where basically there was a way to get a guaranteed character. And so it didn't work for everybody, but I'm going to hope that it worked for a good amount of people. And so I think they should do that for the quirk sets because all of the quirk sets in the game are very, very good. And I think that the game is dangerously close, if not already pay to win. And also, the only time I would have air quotes paid to play this game would have been just using my PlayStation gift cards because I didn't know what to spend them on. I'm like, you know what? I play this game enough. I support it. Why not? And so, otherwise, I have not, went into my wallet, took out my debit card, and paid for it that way. I have not done that. And if I have, it would have been the smallest amount that I would have been able to spend, aka $5, because I'm not gonna dish out $25. Um, and so I think that it would like having the quirk sets would help people continue to play by giving them a chance to have something to look forward to. So the last point I really have to make for this is kind of an in general point, is that I do believe the community for certain games ruins the game just as much as the developers. I'm bringing up Sparking Zero here, which I even had a podcast episode, I think like the week it came out, where me and Kevin hopped on the podcast. When the game first came out, so many people were picking the same overpowered characters. Super Saiyan 4, Gogeta, even Goku at one point, he has a move saying, I'll beat you in 5 seconds, and he just got an insane freaking buff. Yajirobe, who is not the strongest, but he had a sensu bean ability. Long story short, imagine if you're fighting a character who basically have them one hit, and then they pop a sensu bean, aka a magical item that literally heals you from injury, and then bam, they basically have full health again. You're picking Whis, one of the strongest characters in the entire series. Ultra Instinct Goku, doesn't matter which version. And then, there's more. And so Dragon Ball is not really a balancing kind of game, so to speak. Where like, if you pick a weaker character, just for example, let's say if you're going to pick Kid Gohan and you're fighting up against, we will say, Beast Gohan because he's in the game. Beast Gohan is, the latest transformation of Gohan in the present. It is possible as Kid Gohan to win, but say maybe if you're playing against one of your friends and you're Kid Gohan and your friend is Beast Gohan, unless you're just like a dog, unless you're him or her at the game, it's going to be pretty tough for you to win. But hey, it's not impossible. In my opinion, it's just not probable because the power gap between the two is just insane. In sports, it happens the same. Like Madden, for example, a lot of people are going to pick the Chiefs, they're going to pick the Eagles, and yes, even my favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to pick those three teams a lot. Like in the past with the Chiefs, you're going to just throw streaks to Tyreek Hill. Or, today on the Dolphins, basically pick that for him as long as he's on the Dolphins. The Eagles, their team is just, stacked. Ravens got a pretty stacked team too. But, they're going to just pick Lamar Jackson and spam read option or just take off with Lamar and not, play actual football. In college football, like early, like specifically college football 25, a lot of people early on would pick Bama just because Jalen Monroe was insane, where he was basically breaking every tackles. He's faster than everybody. And also the Ohio State running back. I believe his name was Quinshon Judkins. Kevin, please let me know in the comments below. I do know he got drafted to the Browns, though. But one of the running backs the Browns drafted is who I'm referring to. I just don't remember him by name. I didn't add that to my notes. I apologize. But there's just no variety in who people would pick in an online game, so to speak. Where basically the only game where I can think of where the variety, I'm like, okay, I get it, is actually 2K. Because I talked about, the importance of like the VC and whatnot. And a lot of people, they just, go on YouTube and type in best point guard build and they'll just replicate it to the T. They're not being original or, they're not going to take that risk, which I get it because of the points I mentioned earlier. But like, a lot of people, they're going to, just make that YouTube build and out of fear of making a bad build and you're spending too much money and then you play that build for a while and you might have spent $100 and you're like, man, this build is trash. Then you're going to make another one. And then you're just trapped in an infinite loop. You're trapped in the infinite Tsukiyomi. You're trapped in the Izanagi. But yeah, no, that's about it for this podcast episode. Let me know what you all think about, kind of some of the games that I talked about as a whole. If you think that video games are kind of falling off, if you think video games are in a bad place, let me know down in the comments below. I appreciate you all for sticking with me for about 40 minutes. You all are the best, and I'll see you in the next episode.